Okay, in this part, I'm going to do the stern Admiral's walk. I'm going to try and solder it up. So, as usual, we'll clean it up with the fiberglass pen. I'm going to do it still attached to the thread because there's some delicate parts, such as this handrail here, that I'm going to be careful with. Okay, with all the parts cleaned up, we'll cut them out and clean them up as usual. So with all the parts cut out and cleaned up, we'll focus on the actual walkway itself. So we've got 3 parts to that. So we have a bottom plate and we need to make sure we get it the right way around. So on here you can see there's some detail, and that's the locations of the supports underneath. Of course it's flush on that side. For the top plate, again flush on the underside, and then on the top you can see some lines for the grating. So that'll go on there. And then finally we've got this plate here, and it actually has a groove that takes the railing, so that would be on top. So we want to spend a bit of time making sure we get these all lined up flush with each other. And of course we've got the plate to put on as well. So we'll just get this lined up perfectly first. Because it's smooth brass, they've got a tendency to slide on each other. I think that's not too bad that side. Okay, that's quite good. And of course we want to be careful we don't bend or twist any of these parts. So I've slightly changed the methodology. What I'll do is I'll solder the back end because it's only 2 thicknesses of brass. And then once these 2 halves are together, then we can spend time fine-tuning the base of the rail. So just apply flux. And I'll do it side on because we want to keep it off the top and bottom of the face. Okay, so it's not too bad. A wee bit is went onto the top surface, but we can scrape and clean that up. So we should be able to remove this. And then we'll just put them on the other side, just to close them up. So this is locked in place now, so we can't slide about. Just put the flux on. Again, I'll try to hold it so it doesn't flow onto the other surfaces where I don't want it. Not sure how well it's showing up on camera. But that's the inside edge soldered up now. So this can't come apart. I'll just spend a wee bit of time clean up. There's 1 or 2 blobs, as you can see, and 1 or 2 areas where it went onto the top surface. But that's easy enough to clean up. So that's that back soldered edge all cleaned up, just using files and wet and dry paper. So now that we don't need to worry about this sliding about, we can now fit on this rail here. Just remembering to keep the the groove on the top. I think we might just work at one side, work our way along. So hold that there, more or less in position elsewhere. I might just tack that edge. Okay, so I've just found something else. Rather than start at one corner, I'm going to start at the center, because hopefully you can see the ends of the rail is actually sticking up far past the inside edge. So if I start at the middle, get that tacked, and then I can work my way around. So again, just making sure it's lined up, flush perfectly with the edge. And once I do the railing, I can see if I need to trim these or just leave them. I think it would be trimmed a bit anyway. Just give it a second or two to set up. And now, with that fixed, we can now manipulate the sides in and out. And that's actually fallen into place really well now, just with the wee bit in the edge sticking out. There's nothing stopping us now soldering the full length. Okay, so I'll just hold that there, and then we'll work our way around again. Now I'll just work on this corner here. And then I'll come along this side of it. Just want to make sure it's really flush in the end, because I want that to be all one surface. Getting there. Okay, so we'll just lock this edge. We'll do the same to the other side. We'll just lock that edge. We'll go back to the other side and then just finish this. Okay, so that's that. Again, just a wee bit of overflow around the edge, but we can clean it up easy enough. And we haven't affected anything on this side either, so we'll just clean it up. So what I've been doing for anything that flows onto the front surface, or the top and bottom surface, just been scraping it off with a knife. The knife works really well. Just to scrape the solder. And of course we'll just finish it up with some fine paper, some fine wet and dry. Just trying to get it so the light's not blinding you. Okay, so I'll finish cleaning this up and then we'll come back. Okay, so this is cleaned up pretty well, I think. Managed not to fill in any of the edge detail, which is good. So we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I've just found a major problem. And it looks like Pontos has misnumbered the parts. So the bottom rail is 205 and the top rail is part 202. Now, according to the instructions, 205 fits to the walkway. However, if you hold up 202, it's a perfect fit lengthwise to be flush with the ends. Because if you remember 205, it's over length, but I put it on anyway. And 202, I can just line it up, perfectly in line with that edge, and it's in line, or will be in line with that edge. So the option is continue with this, trim that, and it just means the handle will be short at the top, or unsolder it, clean it all up, and then resolder it. Look at the handrail. This is a top edge, and that's the bottom edge. It's hard to see if it's shorter at the bottom. Okay, it is. So if we hold that against the edge, you can see it's a wee bit shorter. So Pontos has messed up the instructions with the numbering. That's 205. They said put 205 on. That's 202, but that should be on the bottom. Okay. So I bit the bullet and replaced the rail with 202 instead of 205. What I did was I just ran the tip of the soldering iron across the top and slid in the razor blade and worked my way along. So as you can see from the photo, the rail I removed took a fair bit of bending, and you can also see just how much the solder, even though held tight together, worked its way underneath, which I then had to scrape and clean up. So here's a photo of the part cleaned up. So I think it was worth doing. The solder joints along the back wasn't affected, and even the joint between the two main plates wasn't affected, so a bit of a disaster averted. The next part is probably the most nerve-wracking of the Admiral's walk, where we have to bend the handrail to suit the groove. It does have a front and back, so the rear side's all smooth, and we'll put that to the inside, and the front side has these little plates over the joints. So, and also we need to make sure we get the up and lower rails in the proper orientation. So we'll bend this, but what I'm going to do is mark up this center rung, and then this will just help make sure we bend it in the right orientation, because we have quite a curve at the very front. The two sides are relatively straight, and then we've got a curve on the back edges. And we use this to keep trialing it up against. Front side down, we've got the center marked, and then using a round form in some soft foam, we just press gently down and start forming the center curve. Now you don't want to be pressing too hard. We just take our time, because when you really get one chance at this, if we overdo it, it's going to affect the rest of it. Also, when you're rolling long straight parts, keep the form at 90 degrees. If you go slightly off, it will put a twist into the part. Okay, so we need to maintain right angles to the part. Like I say, we'll just keep offering it up, do a bit, and then come back and then do another bit. So the very front's starting to come along. We now need to start bending the sides, which is round about just before that first stanchion. This side's not too bad, just a bit more curve needed. You can see this one's went a wee bit flat here, so just need to put a bit more bend into that part. I'll just mark where the next bend at the ends are. What we want to do is put gentle curves. If we put too hard, too strong, we'll risk putting a kink in it, which will then be hard to straighten out. So I'll start putting the bends in the ends now. Using a bit more force just to get around that tight corner. You have to be careful you don't catch onto something, because they're so delicate. That one's looking good, a bit too tight on this one. Just open it up a wee bit. Okay, but you get the idea anyway, so I'll just keep working away just to tighten up or tidy up just one or two little bits, but on the whole, we're almost there. Just a bit at the end. Just this one side here as it needs a wee bit more. Okay, so I've got the handrail probably as best as it's going to go. I now need to start fixing it down. So I want to attach it to the top rail first. So if you remember, this is the one we had to pull off the walkway. So what I've done is, using microcrystal clear, I've stuck it down onto just a piece of MDF. We can release it easily enough later. So remember, when we put the handrail on here, it needs to be upside down, okay? Which I had right the first time. Because it's still, even though it's got bends in it, it's still relatively springy. I'm going to tag one corner and then work my way around. So I'm just going to do a little tiny section at the end there. And I'm going to use the smallest amount of solder paste right in the joint. Grab that there. And that should be held now. It is. Okay, perfect. So hopefully you can see it's now stuck in there. So what we can do is now work our way around, placing the rail into the groove a bit further along. So we'll just put in plenty of flux into there. I just need to cut a sliver of solder, fit the handrail into the groove. I'll just place a sliver of solder on the inside edge and then apply the heat from the outside. So I just need to get it lined up. It's really starting to stiffen up now that we've got some of the locations secured. Some solder. I'm sure I'm making this a lot harder than just onto the last stretch now. I just flux everything now. We're almost there. Okay, so that's it, soldered on. Not too bad, a wee bit of results. Now, I started to descend virtually right on the line. As we went round, you can see it's probably about maybe a mil off. Something's happened on the way around. I should have started at the middle like we did, gluing up the base plates, but by the time it's on, you're never going to see all this. So we just need to release it from the plate now. So using IPA, we'll just flood the surface and let it do its work. Might have to come in a few times, but okay, so it's starting to come off now. Okay, we'll just clean off any residue from the top. Not too bad. Moment of truth to see how it fits onto the base. That's looking pretty good. This should be a lot easier because now that we've established the bends, it should be fairly straightforward, particularly onto the bottom rail, because we need to start at the front this time because we need to make sure it's centered. Again, we might just have to start at one point and work our way around. But before we do that anyway, we need to have a look at the nameplates because I want to keep this edge here again for bending and holding against. So Pontos supply two options for nameplates, and so we've got one blank plate turning on this way. Obviously with the Japanese carters, need to make sure we get it the right way around. So it goes on like that. So you've got an edge part with the name on it, or a blank plate. And what they've done is they've supplied some gold coloured stickers. I'm assuming they're stickers, it could be decals. I think they're stickers. Anyway, I'm going to use the etched one because it's all perfectly aligned. Using this, you're going to be messing about trying to get them just spot on. We've actually got like some bolt detail which should line up with the stanchions on the handrail. I'll just mark the centre again based on that. Okay, so it's the same deal. We'll just put a bend in it to match the groove here, which means it should match the handle. A bit more force needed for this, purely because it's a lot thicker. Well, it's probably not thicker, but it's a lot more material. We'll just keep trying this out. So just the same we did for the handle. So again, I'll do this off camera. Okay, so that's that bent to shape now. So we'll put that aside until we finish the handle. Okay, so we're going to solder this on to the walkway now. And we'll do the same method where we'll just work our way slowly around a section at a time. And we'll use the solder paste again. And I really want to just do the smallest part here. And it's easier to line up now because we've got the center stanchion, and then the, can't see for the light, and then the center rib or line for the supports go. You probably can't see this. Okay, so let's miss the groove. Okay, I need to redo this because my first attempt I missed the line. So we want to just tag the very front edge, just at a small point there. I just need to try and get the bottom of the handrail into that groove. It's not very well defined in this one. Okay, I'm not sure how much of that you saw. But that's our very first corner, the very first part done. We need cleaning up. This one wasn't so nice as the other ones, but I'll tack them all anyway, and then we can come back and worry about cleaning up later. So the principle is the same as what we did for the top rail. We'll just work our way doing a section at a time. Okay, so again we'll just flood the area with flux, and we'll just put the tiniest dots of solder. The principle is the same, but it's just trying to get it to stay permanently where I want it. Like I could probably solder up that whole section there, but as soon as I let go, I'll lose the position again. Right there would be perfect to the whole length. Okay, what I might do is, instead of using the paste, I'll just put slivers of solder on the inside and apply the heat from this side. Sorry, I had to do this off camera. I just couldn't get close enough to see what I was doing. So that's all soldered up anyway. I have a fair bit of cleanup to do, just because I had a bit of trouble with this side here, where actually it soldered it too far in. So I had to kind of desolder it as best I could and then push it out and then resolder. Just looking, I can see slightly offline here with that, but I'm going to have to live with that because so I'll clean this up and then we'll come back and look at getting the badge on the front. Okay, so I've cleaned it up and given a wash in it, and overall it's not too bad. Definitely room for improvement in some areas, but until we see it primed and painted, it's hard to tell. It's the shiny brass and shiny solder kind of merge into one, so it's very difficult to see just exactly what's going on sometimes. So the next step is we'll fix the nameplate on the back. Now I've stuck it onto some tape. We just need to double check we get the right way up, and that's it there. So we'll just put that aside. And I'm just going to put a piece of tape here. Just to set the height and get the the nameplate level with the base or the walkway. So remember that upright stanchion's the centre, slightly offline. So what I'll do is I'll place this offline as well slightly. So you probably can't see. There's two little dots which are supposed to be bolt detail. So I'm just going to put them to the side a wee bit. Okay. So the nameplate should be in position now. So what I'm going to do is just solder out the center point. Just there. And then we'll do one at each side. Apply some flux just put a tiny sliver of solder. We'll just push it up against the rail. Actually, maybe we'll try the paste. Okay, that worked. Okay, so it's soldered in the centre anyway. It looks to be fairly level. Do this edge first, because that's really tight against it, which is good. Just pushing against the wood to keep it thingy while I apply the heat. That's better. Just the last side to do, the last edge. Okay. Yep. Okay. I'll have to give that a bit of a clean in the back edge if I can. Okay, so I'll just need to give that back edge just need to give that back of the sign a clean. But just looking at it, it's not too bad. I'm guessing it's acceptable, but we'll know once we get paint on it. So next up we'll do these under supports. So they've actually got some nice detail in there with some ribs and bolts. And then of course on the back side it's just all smooth and flush. So we need to roll long edge here to wrap around. So I've measured the width across, which is 5.5. I'm going to use a 5mm drill as a form, or mandrel. And again, we'll just gently keep rolling the bend. Pushing down with a bit more force now to tighten the bend. But I think the 5's too close to the finished size, so let's use a smaller drill. This one's 3.5, and I'll tighten the curve, especially near the end where it's quite hard to get the end to wrap around. Okay, so it's very close. I just need to tighten up. To straighten up the long edge, it's took a wee bit of a bend in it. That's not too bad there. Just the very end curve needs a wee bit more. So if we can just tighten up that bend at the end there. That's not too bad. You can see it sits underneath, and that's what we want. So just bend up this short section here. .90°. Put the end against the other end. Open the bend a wee bit. I tighten the bend, sorry. Let me see if we can just get this to button there so it holds its position. Okay, it's almost there. Okay, so it's actually able just past it a wee bit. It's very close. Okay, so what I did was I lined up the join, and then just to hold it, because the slightest touch will spring up apart, either in or out or whatever. And then I've gripped it between these tweezers. So we're not ready to run a bead of solder, and we can actually push and pull this to close the gap. Flux this up. We take some solder onto the iron, put it into the corner. I don't know how much you saw that, but that flowed all the way around. That part's came off. Small wing, that's came off. Too much bending. So we need to see if we can get that to... I might just do this off camera. What I think I'll have to do. Hold this piece that it broke off. Just in position. And then hit it with the soldering iron. Square that up now. That's it, not too bad. A bit more long-winded than I was expecting, but so we'll just clean this up. Not much came out the other side, which is good. And you'll never see inside there anyway, so. Okay, so that's both of them done. On the long edge, looks pretty good. Just when we get to the joint, it's a bit haphazard. Same with the other side. Looks pretty good all the way around, and then this one I had a real struggle with. This is when it broke off. So it's kind of a wee bit flat, but that's okay. The next thing we need to do is we need to attach them to the underside here. So what I've done is I've made a holder just to keep the thing off the ground so we don't damage the handle. So it's just MDF sanded to shape. And as you can see, these in the recesses quite nicely. And we just flux this. Okay. Okay, so that's that one done. So again, we'll just flood this area. Turn on. Give this a wee bit of a clean. Okay, so it's not too bad. A bit too much for these under braces or supports. I would say too much effort for the result. Super glue would have done for these a lot better, I think. Anyway, we're almost there, so we'll keep moving forward. Well, ready for the last part. Okay, so the last thing to do now is attach the supports. So you can see the edged line there, so there is actually a groove. It actually stops short at the edge. We want to make sure we put the right support in the right place, but also we want to get them the correct way around. So hopefully you can see on this leg of the support, there's actually a bit of a step, and that corresponds with the flat part on the base plate. 206 is the center, and then 207, 208 to work their way out. Flux, I'm just going to try and keep it right on the line there. And of course, we'll flux on the side of this as well. So they're just in the groove. So, done anyway. So I'll just do the rest of them. Okay, so that's all the soldering done and parts more or less finished now. Just have to be very careful where you hold it now so you don't bend the supports. It was a lot trickier than I was expecting, and I wasn't enjoying it as much as I thought I would. I was looking forward to doing this, but yeah, it kind of fought me a lot of the way. But that's it done now anyway. So we'll get some primer on it and we can see how good or bad it's turned out. Because it's hard to tell at the moment because of the shiny brass and solder makes it very difficult to see. So let's get some primer on it and then we'll come back. Okay, so that's all the prime done. On a whole, it's not too bad. The top surface is probably better, which is good. The underside, a few rough spots, particularly with these round supports or braces. So we'll get into paint next. So the first thing we're going to do is spray the railing grey. So that's that. We'll set it aside to dry now. We're ready for the next stage. So the next stage is to mask off the railing itself. So what I'll do, now you could put on one piece of full width, but I'm going to put in two sections, and that will allow me to take up any changes or discrepancies in the gap. So I just need to get it started. And I want to go flat against the bottom rail. So keep it on the fully vertical part of the handrail, of the railing, sorry. It's very hard to hold because of the bottom supports. Of course, the nameplate's holding the tape away. Don't want to bend any of them. Okay, so that's that been done. Okay, so we'll now just do the same for the top. Yeah, that nameplate is messing up the positioning up here. So just this very front part to fix it. I might have to take this off and do that. This section in multiple parts. We'll see how we go. May just have to come back in with a brush and just touch up any overspray or whatever. So I'll go and do the inside now and then we'll come back. So that's the masking the handrail done. On the outside, I actually peeled it off one side and masked up to either side of the nameplate and then built up the masking on the nameplate. So I wasn't happy with the way the nameplate was buckling the tape, so hopefully it'll be better now. So we're going to painting the handrail. So I'm going to do a few different colours, but I'm going to use Hull Red. And it's a bit boring and unwood-like at the moment, but hopefully the next step will change that. So let's get that paint done. So you can see I'm actually gripping the walkway with one of the supports, which hopefully it holds being soldered, but you certainly couldn't do that with super glue. That inside bottom edge is very hard to reach. Its position. Okay, so that's a brown one. I'll just set this aside now and then we'll come back for the next step. So with the paint dry for the brown or Hull Red, what I'm going to do is give it a coat of clear red. So this will give it a varnished wood finish and brighten the colour a bit. So hopefully it looks more mahogany or something similar. So again, we'll start with the inside. hopefully on the top rail we can see some difference. That'll dry. So hopefully it comes out a nice gloss colour. Okay, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so let's mask off the brown now. Okay, so we just need to cover up the top rail a bit. The underside, because all the spraying is going to be from below shortly. It's getting hard to hold on to. We'll do the same for the inside. That'll do. Okay, so, because I want the front edge to be brown, but when we come to do the grey underside, I want it to just be within the flat surface, so I'll do that. So now it's the hardest part, which is to mask the base. You're probably not going to be able to see much of this. I'll do this off camera so I can get in closer, but I'm just trying to get the perimeter of the raised plate masked up. Okay, so I've masked up off camera because it was too hard to get close in to see what I was doing. I'll get the colour onto here now. So I'm going to use Tamiya's Deck Tan. Okay, so with the Deck Tan done, I'm now going to give it a coat of clear orange. Again, just to give it a bit of vibrance, and also it'll give it a glossed varnish look again. A bit too heavy in the corner there. That'll do, we'll see how it turns out. And lastly, we'll do the hull colour on the underside. Okay, so that's all the major painting done. Just leaves it to unmask once this has had a bit of time to dry. Now for the fun part, the unmasking. I always like unmasking. It's a bit exciting to see just how things have turned out. That one actually missed where it's supposed to be. Okay, it's not too bad. I'm not happy with the colour of the walkway. I've got some brass showing there as well. And the wood's the dark wood's a bit darker than I'd like. I'm not sure. I might actually strip this back and redo it with a different choice of colours. But we'll keep moving forward anyway. So we can try and do the nameplate now. So just using some wet and dry, trying to keep away from the edges. It doesn't look too bad. So there's only one more thing to do now. and that's to paint each of these little plates here. So I'm going to use Vallejo's Gold for that. And we need to remember to do the inside ones as well. So what I'll do is, I'll do these off camera because it's very hard to get close. To get in close because of the camera's like in my face. Okay, so I'll finish that and we'll come back. Okay, so that's that done now. I'm going to call this one done. I'm not 100% happy with the colour choices. So when it comes time to fit this onto the ship, I may have stripped it all back and redid it. But that was a process anyway, so you get an idea.